the topic that Lucy is going to talk about fits into that shift from an eco mindset to an ecosystem mindset. Help me welcome Lucy.
Thank you, Dr. Justin. Thank you, everyone, and good morning once again. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our online community. I don't know what time it is where you are, but it is a pleasure to have you here today. As Dr. Justin said, it's been a good 2 years of collaborating with him. I've learned a lot. As much as I've not yet gone full-time to study organizational development, but I am a believer in organizational development, which is why I'm here. And I would also like to say that I've got two of my colleagues here with me. I've got Mr. Mtendera here, he reads our blood supply department. I've got also our human capital and administrative executive seated at the back there. And that's Mr. Mpada there. I was hoping others would have joined online, but I think when we did a roll call, I did not see anybody. I'm not sure what happened. We hopefully should be able to resolve that. We can start. Mine is not the presentation that matters, it's the story that we're going to be talking about today. But the reason why I have this short presentation is really to show you the background of the organization so that you understand the story. So don't worry too much about the slides, they are not very important. They're just for you to understand the organization so that when I start to talk about the story, its transformation story, you can understand the organization we are talking about. We proceed. So you skip that slide, it's all right. So as means of backgrounds, the National Blood Service has been existing since 65 years ago, precisely from April 1958 to date. When it started, it's a group of doctors that came together and decided to form a blood transfusion organization in Harare in 1958. It was then Salisbury by then, it was not yet Harare. And then in 1960, a similar grouping came about in Bulawayo as we know it. And then afterwards, the two districts merged. The Salisbury district, as it was formed in 1958, and then the Bulawayo district, as it was formed in 1960. These two organizations then merged to form what was called the National Blood Transfusion Service. That merged organization became registered as a private, not-for-profit company. It's not a parastatal. So a lot of people, because they hear National Blood Service Zimbabwe, we are no longer National Blood Transfusion Service. The moment they hear national, they believe we belong to the government, we are a parastatal of the government. So it always draws a lot of connotations from the public. So that's why I'm painting that particular picture. So we were actually registered as a not-for-profit company under the previous Companies Act, Chapter 24.3, but now we know with the Companies and Other Business Entities Act, which is the new act, we have re-registered again under that act as a not-for-profit company. We draw our mandate from the Ministry of Health and Childcare, which has given us the mandate to go into the public, to collect blood, process it, and distribute it to the Republic of Zimbabwe. So this is what we do. We are fully sanctioned by the laws of Zimbabwe to be able to do what we do. But again, I'll emphasize, we are not a parastatal. We do not get money from the government. We are not a public entity. So for those that like to scold me, when I say me, and say, it's our money, it's public money, it is not your money. We're not getting any money from the Republic of Zimbabwe. Why am I saying this? Because normally, you know what, for the benefit of my international delegates, people always say, but we are giving you the blood for free, we're even giving you the money for free. I don't know where they get it from. That is not true. We have a board, which is actually made of 4 committees there: the remuneration and human resources, the audit, risk and governance, the governance, strategy and finance, and the technical committee. In other words, we have a proper governance structure. You cannot fault our corporate governance. That is not to say we've not made mistakes in the past. We have, and we cleaned up our act. Now, you can come anytime. Our corporate governance is impeccable. That I can promise you. So we have a total of 210 staff. You can move to the next slide, and they're distributed as follows. That's our map there. The red areas you see there is where we operate from, the dots there. We are present in Harare, in Bulawayo, Masvingo, Gweru, and Mutare. We had the intention to set up status in Victoria, in Wange. In fact, we had a clinic in Wange. It was not operating very well, so we had to make amendments there. We also have intentions of setting up other distribution centers, but as time goes on, we'll see whether that's still going to be feasible or not in Chinhoyi and so forth, just to spread our reach and increase our coverage to the nation. So when we talk about blood and blood products, so that blood which I get freely from my brother Jiva's day, and I give him a bottle of juice or a bottle of beer or the scud, you know, the scud or the shake, whatever drink, beverage they like is what we give them, and some eat, some donor comfort. When it comes into the lab, to us, it's not going to leave as is and go into your relative as is. If that process had been that simple, you would not need me and my team. And when people say, why are you charging me money in order for the blood to be accessed by my relative? I always say, remove me and see if you can connect a pipe from yourself into your relative. If you cannot do that, you need me. And that is why you pay for that service. We never charge you for the milliliters of blood that go into that pint. Those ones are priceless because that is life. You can never buy that life. What you pay for is that value chain. Because for me to come to Jivas and say, may I please have a pint of blood, I have to go to him and convince him that, my brother, when you donate your blood freely, you can save up to 3 people. Because I'm going to make a platelet, I'm going to make a plasma, I'm going to make packed cells. Yes, you've given me 1 unit, but I can make 3 products that can save 3 different people. But for me to make those products, it's going to take money, it's going to take machinery, it will take utilities, there are staff that work there, there's equipment and infrastructure that needs to be maintained. All of it costs money. And if you ask me how much, I can give you a cost breakdown, and you can see how much it takes to get that blood freely from you and get it at a cost to the patient. So your 450 milliliters of blood, those ones, if you were to ask me for a price, I can never repay you, my brother. Never. Right? So blood is expensive, not because it's expensive from you, but it's that value chain there. But what does that present to us as an organization? It means that for us to continue running, we have to charge the user a user fee. And it presents problems, isn't it? What problems does it present? It means that if someone does not have money, they cannot pay for the product. And if they cannot pay for the product, they cannot access it. And if they don't access the product, because it has the finite shelf life of only 42 days, it's going to expire in stock. And if it expires in stock, I have to throw it away and go back to my sister and say, can I have some more? And the cycle continues. It's not a good place to be in, isn't it? It also means that if I do not get adequate people to give the blood, I don't have enough to supply to the hospitals. And if I do not have adequate to supply to the hospitals, as an organization, I cannot break even. And if I do not break even, it means that I cannot continue as a going concern, isn't it? So if I cannot continue as a going concern, there's a time when I have to say to some people, thank you for your services. Though I need them, I cannot afford them, isn't it? These are the challenges that are there. Please proceed. So after COVID-19, a disruption came. Right. Maybe before we get there, so some of my cost drivers are like that. The recruitment process, the convincing of people to donate blood is 6%. The collection and everything, 23%. The lab, which is the most important, is 33%. So if you can look at it, we are already over 60% direct input into the unit. The admin is about 32%. That's your salaries, your utilities, and everything else, your vehicle wear and tear. Then the training and quality management, as you can see. So what goes into the unit is over 60% direct costs. this is what is there. So we are charging you just for us to have that value chain going. But for us, it's also a VUCA world for National Blood Service. Remember, we are the only provider so far. So far in this entire country, we are the only source of blood. If you need it, you're coming to us. But the world is not waiting for us, is it? Things are topsy-turvy. It's a VUCA world. We all know what that is. Dr. Justin said, we are not here to learn the theory, so I'm not teaching you what VUCA is. You know these things. Proceed. The VUCA is the new normal at the moment. We know that. And we are either part of the wave or we're going to collapse. But then again, we are saying there is more beyond the VUCA. Right? We can proceed. Right. You've heard of D-VUCA-D. Right? Disruption, VUCA, diversity. Right? This is what we need to be talking about. I'm not going to talk about the concepts. I'm just going to now go into my story versus VUCA, D-VUCA.
Recording stop. Recording in progress.
Actually, as CEO, COVID-19 and the economic ravages and how we, as National Blood, have responded to that. That's the story now that we're going into. I was just painting the picture for you so that when we start talking, and I start talking about the transformation journey, you understand where it's coming from and why we're doing what we are doing. Right. I started off in the organization. This is my 20th year in National Blood Service. I started off on, I think, 2nd or 3rd of December 2003, which means I will be turning 20 this particular year. And the men there at the back will be giving me a certificate for turning 20 this year. So clap hands for me for turning 20. And I've been CEO for 9 of those 20 years. When I took over as CEO, I had a vision. Like anybody, when you go into leadership, you have a vision. And for me, my vision was to say, I want to see this organization transform. And you may wonder why I wanted it to transform. That's because the previous CEO was always sharing information with us, which is what I appreciate a lot. And I always knew, most of the time, we were in a deficit, or we had just managed to break even. Sometimes we didn't have salaries because of the model that we were using, and we still continue to use that model, where we supply blood to the hospitals, and then we get paid for it. At that time, the hospitals would pay us directly. So hospitals would not pay because government does not have money. Budgets have not been released. Nowadays, we supply the hospitals free of charge. For those that do not know, in government hospitals, blood is for free. Although most of the people here don't know, they like to scold me. The blood is for free. Government then pays me directly for the products that I've supplied. But what happens is that we can go for 6 months without receiving a payment for products that have been issued. What's the situation in Zimbabwe if you go for 6 months without receiving payment? Especially at the beginning of the year. I think you all know that. So you can imagine. I'll give you a practical example. This year we got a very big payment in December, a little bit of payment in January, and then a very big payment on the 1st of June. What happened on the 6th of June, Zé? What happened? Tell them. You know it, isn't it? Things went upside down. Whatever I got paid on the 1st of June was slashed by into 5, isn't it? The exchange rate tumbled. So it was worth 20% of its value in 5 days. That's what happened between 1 June and 6 June. But it means, to me, I have to make it work because my data says I've paid you. I've cleared my debt. It's not their problem that the money is devalued, isn't it? But what does it mean in the 6 months where I'm waiting for payment, I've not received it? And yet my only source of funds is this unit of blood. It means that I need to think of ways of moving away from relying on this 1 unit of blood. So I had to think about the D, then the second D from VUCA. D, VUCA, D, the diversity. So I said to my team, guys, we need to diversify. we have to diversify. So we sat down and we said, we have to look at other revenue streams we've got to transform. It needs us to think differently. It needs us to act differently. We cannot sit here and look at the same solutions that we've applied time and time again. We know these things, they are traditional problems, and we are not going to get a different answer. It needs us to think very far away from the box. If we see the box, we must run. I like it. We must kick the box. Mr. Mtederon, Mr. Mkwada, do you hear that? When you see the box, kick it away. Or burn it better. Burn it so that we never see it again. We have to think differently. We have to diversify. So we sat down. We went for a strategic planning session. And there we decided we were creating a business development section within the organization, where we said this is where we need to look at other income streams beyond the unit of plant. Unknown to us, we realized the registration status of our organization, we are not for profit, so we cannot pursue under the current registration status. So we had to link seek legal counsel, and then we had to be advised that we can only do that under a special purpose vehicle. So it required us to change our mindset and realize that under the current arrangement, we cannot go this way. We had to go a different direction. So we had to change our mindset and realize that the same method of operation is not going to work for us. So one principle I would have to say to you is that your normal way of doing things may not be the best way to operate when you want a change to happen within an organization. A mind shift must take place. A change in the way you do business will have to take place. So we had to come up with a strategic business unit, or rather a special purpose vehicle. So we set it up, and we helped the business development alongside there. But we still said new business can emerge from any unit and from anybody. But we have laid down the principles of how do we recognize new business and how do we nurture them so that they can reach maturity. Why did we do that? Because you have to recognize as a leader, you don't know everything and you don't know all. You can learn from everybody. Give your organization the chance to grow with you. If you are the kind of person that is prescriptive, that will come and say, we are going this way, we are going that way, and this way and no way, you stifle growth. You have to internalize the growth, but at the same time allow also everybody to express themselves. You are there as a guide. You hold the vision, you communicate it, make sure it is clear, but allow everybody room to participate with you. I think this is one of the things that you need as a leader if you want transformation. Do not impose. Do not impose. This is one thing I realized. We also realized that we needed to change the growth that we needed, the transformation had to occur on two fronts. The diversification was a total shift. Total shift. But we had to agree and say, in what direction are we going? So we agreed that we are a healthcare service provider. We will do anything and everything healthcare because we are already in that particular space. Right? But we will probably be venturing into new territories of healthcare. For example, I'm just giving as examples because I don't want to tell you what projects we are looking at. If we decide that we want to go into radiotherapy, nothing can stop us because we're already in the healthcare business. If we decide that we want to go into maternity provision, nothing can stop us. But then again, you will have to make sure your risk analysis has been done. You've really taken you have crossed the T's and dotted your I's. You've made sure that you've done your proper investigation. It is important that you don't just jump into ventures. You make sure that anything that you take is a proper calculated risk. So for us, we identified the projects in healthcare that we want to do, our strengths and our weaknesses, and prioritized them. And then we said, who is going to be championing each project? Why we did that? One of the things I learned in leadership is that groupthink is a very dangerous thing. As much as I have a very small team of leaders, 2 of which are here, 4 are not here. If I bring all 6 of them together, they are a dangerous lot. But if I take these 2 and bring them for this specific project and I get them to catch my vision, they will work well. If I take the other 2 and I bring them to another project, they will work well. But if I bring all 6 together, nothing is going to move. So when you want change, do not try to sell your vision to everybody. Do it in a smart way. Do it to a core team. And once that core team catches your vision, they will be able to propagate it unto others. Work through core teams that get your vision and are able to translate it unto others. And once that happens, also be prepared to put in the work, put in the sweat, put in the tears. As you said, be prepared for surprises, be prepared for pain as well. But remember, you are going to put in what you invest, what you reward, you get what you invest in, you get in what you measure, and you get in what you reward. If you don't invest in terms of your resources, your time, your money, and everything, nothing will work. If you don't measure what you're doing, you can never keep track of that which you are doing. And if you do not reward the people that are actually going to do the work, you're going to demotivate your teams. Don't be a leader that cannot keep promise. Do not be a leader that does not give credit where it is not due, where it is due. Where criticism is needed, give it, but in a constructive manner that uplifts somebody and make them want to go and correct and do better. Know how to give feedback in a manner that edifies another person. That being said, do not shy away from the hard talk, or else you will get the soft performance. They are leaders who do not want to confront situations. You just have to deal with the situation head on. It's the how, the soft skills that matter, but deal with the hard issues. So, one of the things that we also realized as we were doing this dealing with the disruptive change, a very recent one that we realized yesterday with my colleagues. Remember I told you we were a monopoly. Just yesterday we realized that it's very official. The government is setting up a parallel structure to ourselves. Very official. Government Gazette has even flown a tender for the procurement of equipment for them to set up their own system in Ward C10. What does that mean to us? It means it's game over for us, isn't it? It means the competition is here, isn't it? Yeah. It means that if we are not successful in this diversification agenda that we started on, or if we had not started on this diversification agenda, we were going to be there sitting like a lame duck, isn't it? But thank God we've already started, isn't it? We are not caught unaware. That's because we were reading the situation and we were moving. We realized that it was not enough to think that just because we draw our money, we were protected. No. So that diversification was very much essential for us. So as much as the government is setting up its own, just yesterday we were saying to ourselves, so how do we become a player in making sure we get a slice of the cake in helping the government setting up their own and still get money from it through our special purpose vehicle? What if I didn't have that special purpose vehicle? You see? I don't see them as a threat. I see them as an opportunity to make money. See? That's what you do. You have to change the way you think things. You have to rewire your mindset. Don't look at the next person always as a threat, but what opportunities exist even if they're in the same line of business. And for me, I'm then saying to myself, as much as I will remain in the blood business and they will continue. So what are the things that I will then need to do better? I'm then now looking at, this was the diversification strategy, but what about internal? What about incremental change that we can look at? What are the services that I know will take time for them to catch up? I will need to make sure I have first advantage over certain activities. There are many other services and products that we are not yet offering that doctors have been asking for. We have a lot of Zimbabweans that have gone and studied abroad and experienced a lot of transfusion services which we are not offering, and they've been asking. And we are sitting down and saying, we need to start on this one. We need to start on that one and that. So as we go into our strategic plan at the end of this year, these are the things that we need to be looking at and saying, what incremental change can we do so that we remain ahead of the game as the competition is starting to work on putting their house in order. They must find us 1,000 kilometers away from now. So that when they want to learn about the service, we'll say, we are here to teach it to you, but we'll send you the invoice at the end of the day. You see? So don't fear. You don't fear. There is enough space for everybody, but you just remain ahead of the game. The economy has been very difficult and has led to a lot of staff exodus in my organization, particularly the nursing staff. These are the people that draw blood. The laws of Zimbabwe are such that only nurses and doctors can draw blood from anybody, whether you're in hospital or wherever. So because of that, we have to use nurses in our mobile teams and blood collection centers. And a lot of them will come to National Blood Service, stay for 6 months, they are gone. You have to hire another one, spend a 4 month training them, they work for 5 months, they are gone. So we're always in this cycle where you're recruiting, training, they leave. Recruit, you train, they leave. We have to sit down again and say, what do we do? How do we harness this? In the lab, same thing. They will come in, the degree scientists, work for 6 months, they go for greener pastures outside the country mainly. And we cannot compete with those other countries. Our economy is not the same level. So we have to say to ourselves, what do we do as an organization? We have to rethink, we have to rewire our mindset and say, do we accept the norm that it's the nurses that have to collect blood? This is what the law said. So we went and challenged that. We set up a program where we are training state-certified blood banking technicians. It's a course that is accepted here and the syllabus is there. But we said apart from them being blood banking technicians, we have to teach them to be phlebotomists, which is a total shift. It's never heard of in this country. But we went and we have lobbied and we have won the battle, and very soon that course is being they will be registered as well as phlebotomists. So they will be dual cadres. They're going to be able to work in the lab. They will be able to go and collect blood. What does this mean? It means that if there is no nurse, the person who works in the lab can be taken in to go and collect the blood. If someone is missing from the laboratory, the person who is at the front collecting blood can go in with the blood they've collected and go and process it there. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, isn't it? We have to challenge the status quo. So transformation means that you don't have to accept a norm simply because the law says so. You have the power to challenge existing status quo and be able to change it for your benefit. We have done it as National Blood Service. You can do it too in your organization. Challenge the laws, and yes, they will be bent for you. They've been bent for us. It can be done. In addition, the course that we are doing, we will be able to train even external persons at a fee so that when you go to the labs, you can get anybody who's been trained as a phlebotomist by us to draw blood from you. Labs don't necessarily have to employ a laboratory nurse. So it's going to bring us more money by training these people. We get the revenue. The laboratories are able to save money by employing a relevant person instead of a very expensive person that is underutilized in their laboratory. So we are able to get a win-win situation. So this is one thing that we have done. So what lessons have we learned? Maybe these are some of the run-throughs that I want to go through in the slides there. Zimbabwe is a very unusual economy. It's business unusual in Zimbabwe. You can do your MBA, you can do your MBL, you can do your doctorate in business studies. But with Zimbabwe, you have to come up with a Zimbabwean solution to Zimbabwean problems. You can't run away from that. The theory that you learn is to give you guidance so that you'll be able to apply your mind in crafting a solution that works. And as you apply your mind, you've got to keep it real. Just because the solution has been hypothesized in a textbook does not mean that if you take it and you plug it in the Zimbabwean setting, it's going to work. You've got to learn to think laterally and you've got to learn to think vertically as well. You also have to think diagonally, up and down, round 360 degrees, so that things will work for you. Change is the current constant here in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is the only unique country where you can wake up tomorrow and there's an SI that rubbishes everything that you have known. And then tomorrow there's another one that is rubbishing the one that was rubbishing the other. This is the only country. So what does it mean to you? It means that you have to keep it real always here in Zimbabwe by keeping your head glued to your shoulders and keeping on learning. But what does it mean when you're talking about a learning organization? When you talk of a learning organization, we are simply saying it's the people that learn. There is no such thing as an organization. There are people that make up an organization. So when you talk about a learning organization, as leaders, you've got to recognize people as individuals and appeal to them in a special way so that each and every one of them is willing to learn. And then when they are willing to learn, then together you can try to form high-performing teams. Because the people have individually learned and you can then put them in the relevant groups. We also want to make sure that we are prepared to put in the work and much more. I talked about them. You should know that as a leader, not everybody will believe in your vision. Not everybody will believe in your dream. Accept it. Accept it. It's not everybody that will buy in. It is your duty to sell. That is why your vision has to be very clear. You must make sure that everybody understands it. You must make sure that there is clarity in that which you want everybody to understand, and that when you want to apply it, you must apply it with agility. That is VUCA for me. That is what VUCA means to me. Democracy is not always the best way, especially when you want change. Because when you get democracy, you are saying this is what the majority says, but it may not necessarily be the best. But when I say democracy is not always the best way, I'm saying that where you have a vision, you must coach so that people understand your vision, so that there's clarity of your vision and that there's shared value. Coaching is the best way. I believe in coaching more than I believe in mentorship. Because mentorship says, I know it and you are emulating me. But coaching says, I want to bring out that which is in you so that we move together and I unleash the potential that is in you. As a leader, you need to invest in the coaching of your teams. You have to invest in coaching. I did talk about being prepared for surprises and pain, and you have to take them in stride. And then the mind shift. Although we talked about it, a lot of people take mind shift for granted. It's very disappointing as a leader when you have a very clear vision, you sell it and you think you've done a good job, and you realize all 6 of your team members don't buy it. Or just that their mindset is not wired that way. It's not easy to change mind shifts. It's not easy to influence mind shifts. You've got to understand that. But it's not impossible. It's just a game of patience. But should it fail, you also have to understand that the team you're working with now may not necessarily be the best team to take with you on the transformation journey. be clear, be prepared for that as well. We talked about relationships yesterday versus networks. Your relationships that you have within the organizations, be prepared sometimes to sever them for the bigger vision that you have and create new ones. Doesn't mean that you love these ones any less, but they are better suited for this part where you are. And you may need to take new people with you on the transformation journey. It's all right, especially when you do diversification. These people may be set in this way of life and they may not necessarily feel that they want to go with you on the transformation journey. It's okay, leave them behind. Take one or two that catch the vision and then grow the team. And through performance, through results, you may be able to influence the others to join you on the journey as you move. I talked about you get what you invest, measure and reward. But greatest of all, make the numbers speak for you. Give evidence of everything that you do. When you are selling your vision, show us the numbers. Where are we coming from? Where are we now? Where are we going? Paint a picture for us so that we can believe you. But if you sell us a dream whereby it's not supported by facts, we become doubtful of what you're talking about. It's like a prophecy where somebody says, I dreamt this last night and God was saying this to me. How do we know whether that conversation took place? I'm a Christian, I dream. And sometimes I have conversations with God, but that's between me and God. How do you know whether I'm lying about my conversation with God? But with organizations, it's not about the conversations I have with God. I pray for my organizations a lot. But I can't come to the board and say, when I was praying, this is what God says to me. My board chair wouldn't want to hear that. In as much as he's a Christian or whatever faith he is, he wants to see the top line, he wants to see the bottom line, he wants to see the in-betweens, and then he wants to see the projections. This is what makes sense. So in as much as I want to do something new, I have to paint the picture and I have to do it using numbers. This is it. Like I said, do not try and convince everyone at once. Piecemeal. So that the evidence of the results will convince everybody else to jump along onto the train, and together we will move. Best of all, it starts in the head. And when it starts in the head, it means that we have to believe it, we have to think it, we have to learn it, we have to want it, and then we have to breathe life into it through action. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's really
Thank you, Steve, for sharing your journey with us. I think we've learned quite a number of lessons, which are aligned to our theme for this year, rewiring the leadership mindset. And I think as NBS, you've done a very good job at that. At this moment, we'll call upon any comments, any reflections from Lucy's journey.
Thank you so much for such an eye-opening presentation, and the simplicity. You were straight to the point, but I think for me, what really took me is the issue of diversity. I did indicate earlier on when I was introducing myself that I work for an NGO that deals with gender-based violence. And I think we all know that the issue of funding is a huge problem for most organizations. So I'm glad that we've kind of also aligned ourselves with the diversity. And it's unbelievable the amount of money that we have made just through training. Approaching those big companies that have money, providing trainings for them on issues of gender-based violence. Not only that, also issues of sexual harassment in the workplace, getting them to develop those policies, and of course at a fee. So I really like your approach of diversity, and I think for all organizations here, if you're not going to diversify, you will cease to exist. So I think we really all need to take the issue of the D seriously, and as we go back to our respective organization, make sure that we do diversify without losing our DNA. Because then other establishments then tend to lose their DNA as they diversify and they completely lose who they are. So I really like your approach in that you've still maintained who you are, but you've been able to add on other things. I always say it's like selling fish and chips. You can be a fish and chips business, but then you can add sweets, you can add drinks, you can add any other thing, ice cream, but why you know you are about fish and chips. So I just want to say thumbs up to the diversity, and let's all go and diversify, otherwise it's not easy out there. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Any more comments or reflections?
That was a wonderful presentation, as well as your journey, your life that is being given, madam. Kudos to you. It was awesome and excellent. Can we have a big round of applause for her? She has done wonderful. Just a comment. She has given a wonderful message that she had a cake, and in that cake, somebody else is taking a slice now. And it is not to be worried, because their organization is not worried how much of the slice of the cake they are going to take, because they are well prepared to make a second cake. So this is what is diversification. Thank you so much.
We've got someone online who would like to share a reflection.
It's in the chat. So, Lucy, Dr. Christine Mushibwe from UNICAF in Zambia just wanted to share with you that this is brilliant, well packaged, and well articulated.
Thank you.
We'll take our last comments and then we can move on to the next segment.
Thanks so much, Lucy. That was a very refreshing presentation. And thank you for helping me to know that you are not a government entity. That's exactly how I don't know whether it's your packaging or your marketing or I don't know. But why is it that we, and I'm sure I'm not alone, we have always thought that NBS is a government entity. You are not for profit? Like seriously? so within that, Lucy, how would you then characterize your organizational culture? Thank you very much. I think thank you for the feedback on how people have always viewed us as a government entity. It really shows that we have a lot of work to do in terms of positioning our brand, and I think we are taking baby steps as an organization. So that means that as my colleagues are listening right now, they have work to tell their others back at the organization that this is how we are viewed, and we need to change that particular narrative. As far as the organizational culture is concerned, that's always a question that I find very difficult to define. When someone asks me about the culture, I'm not sure how I would say our culture as an organization is, but I think we are very, what can I say? We've always been a very closed organization, very secluded, and we've always been, what can I say? We didn't have much exposure. So because of that lack of exposure, I think we were very naive and very, what can I say, very much unaware of what the world thinks of us, like this feedback that you've given us. And we were not very, shall I say, tolerant of feedback. We always thought we were doing things right. But now, I think are very focused on quality, we pursue ISO standards and things like that. But I think we're very much closed in our own cocoon. It's only now when we are realizing that we are actually a business. We've always looked at ourselves as that organization that's just there to provide a service, but we've never viewed ourselves as a business. So that's why I'm saying that question is a bit difficult, because we are transitioning from just being there to actually realize that we are actually in the business of businesses. So we actually are a business. So we're hanging somewhere there, and we're still trying to define the organizational culture. And if my human resources guy were to respond there, he will tell you that we actually have a document where we are saying what culture are we and where are we going now. So we actually have a document already working on that particular aspect. That's why I will not be able to articulate, because we are somewhere in between. We were trying to figure out who are we.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucy, for that insightful response.
Thank you once again for those comments and for that wonderful presentation, Lucy. I think I picked 3 things from your presentation. You spoke of value chain, which I want to challenge each and every one of you. Either you are running an organization, what is your value chain? How do you survive from 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? That's value chain. Either you are a service-based business or product-based business, ask yourself, what is our value chain? She spoke again of something that is close to my heart, coaching. In your organization, how are you leading transformation in ensuring that each and every one of you leads towards the mission or the vision that you want to achieve? That's where coaching comes in. The other thing that she spoke about it is where now as the audio consultants comes in, the issue or the aspect of effective use of self, which she spoke about applying your mind. Are you able to apply yourself or your mind when situations comes? That's a question to reflect on after the session.